Our story takes place in Laos, a small country in Southeast Asia. It's the story of a family who fled the country from one day to the next. It's the story of a man who grew up in France and who returns to the land of his childhood. It's the story of this man who, aged 30, followed in his grandmother's footsteps and who learns to weave as one learns how to walk. It's the story of Anou, who weaves silk and who is gradually going to untangle the threads of his life. Anou is a textile designer working in interior decoration. In the space of a few years, he has established a workshop which sells its exceptional silks around the world. Paris, London, New York. His creations are today used and admired by the leading decorators.
I've checked everything, it's all perfect. You can send it.
His fabrics have names like palm tree, monsoon, or fleur de champy. They are inspired by the creations of his grandmother, which have fed his imagination since childhood and which gave him the taste for Laos. But he had to come a long way before creating his own textile workshop. Anou was born in Laos into an aristocratic family. In 1975, when the communists came to power, the monarchy was abolished, prompting the exodus of more than 10% of the population. Anou's family was among those who left. He was 4 years old. Anou was raised in France by parents who refused to even utter the name Laos.
The whole family left in a hurry, with very few belongings. They thought it was really just a crisis that would last a few months, or maybe years, but my grandparents never went back. None of them.
In Paris, Anou worked at the Ministry of Culture. For his 30th birthday, against his parents' wishes, he bought a round-trip ticket for Laos. He never used the return ticket and has lived there ever since.
Not long after arriving in Vientiane, I was wandering the city streets and I saw a majestic house. I immediately felt a sort of attraction. It was like the call of a siren, and that same evening I called my mother and told her what I'd felt. I described the house and she said, "If you find a gravestone, that's where my great-aunt is buried." I thought it was a sign. And I knew I was going to stay in Laos. I've always been fascinated by textiles. My grandmother used to weave. She created fabrics and my mother would wear them all the time. I'd spoken to my grandmother about my wish to take over a textile company, and my grandmother told me, if you really want to get into textiles, you have to track down a man called Pieng, the master of my workshop. So for days and days, I traveled the countryside. I asked everywhere, "Do you know Pieng? He's a weaver." I got lost. I came face to face with a man to ask him the way, and when he saw me, he said, "You look like someone I know. You look like your father, and you look like your mother, and I knew you when you were little." And I realized it was Pieng.
Oh, hello, hello. It's been such a long time.
And that was the second sign telling me to stay in Laos.
Pieng was the head of the workshop where Anou's grandmother worked. More than a simple textile worker, Pieng was a close family friend. He kept the two looms that belonged to Anou's grandmother, Oradi, when she fled the country. Oradi belonged to one of the biggest families in the kingdom. She used to make cloth which dazzled the queen. Her diplomat husband was a private advisor to the king. During an official visit, she discovered the silk makers of Lyon and drew inspiration from them to enrich her own creations. She now lives in Australia, far from the banks of the Mekong. Anou embarked on the path of textile making, aided by Pieng, who was his mentor for several years.
Pieng helped me a lot. He taught me to weave. He taught me to put patterns on a warp. And he made me understand what's involved in weaving, colouring, dyeing, spinning silk, and all that on my grandmother's old looms.
Ever since the 14th century, weaving has been an integral part of the culture in Laos, fueling trade with its powerful neighbors, China, Vietnam, Thailand, and Cambodia. It was introduced overland from the north and spread via the country's main artery, Mother of Waters, the Mekong. Textile making has been enriched by the contributions of many ethnic groups with different languages and customs. This is part of a weaving tradition that goes back 1,000 years. Weaving has a dual function: for clothing, but also to give these ethnic groups an identity through motifs and colors. The arrival of the communists in power in 1975 undermined this tradition, although in the 21st century it is being revived. To further his knowledge and find new weavers, Anou takes a trip to the north of the country, cradle of Laos textile tradition. He is accompanied by Peng, the head of his workshop.
Hello. How long is the thread?
42 meters.
42 meters. That makes 6 meters by 7. Could we do that in the workshop?
No, I don't think so.
Why not?
It's difficult when you have to pull the thread.
It's not tight enough.
No, but our weavers have to use all their strength. Here they do it differently.
Cloth in the north is characterized by a single color and complex geometric designs: stripes, diamonds, zigzags, animal and plant motifs. Each motif has its own meaning: stripes for nobility, the diamond for knowledge, and the naga, a fabulous animal with the body of a serpent shown with 1 or 2 heads, which is the all-powerful protector of Laos, source of all life.
Hello. Did you make this fabric?
Yes, I did.
Can you explain the different motifs to me?
Of course.
What does that represent?
That's the dokko motif.
Doko? It's like a hook or a key.
Yes, that's right. Like a hook or a key. The colors were done with plant dyes.
Which ones?
This green is made from indigo mixed with mango wood. You soak the cotton threads in it and then rinse it a lot.
And how long did it take you to make this stole?
I take on average a bit over 2 days.
2 days?
If I weave without interruption, I can do it in 1 day.
1 stole per day?
It depends on my daily chores.
What would you like to do? Weave between daily chores or become a professional weaver?
It depends. Often it's hard to organize my day. The field is a long way, and it takes me a long time.
Do you sell your stoles?
I'd like to earn a living from weaving, without having to do other things.
You'd like to weave and sell your fabric, is that right?
Oh, yes.
Like all of us.
Anou modernizes these geometric motifs from the northern regions. In his workshop in Vientiane, he weaves them in silk on a larger scale.
There's already a centimetre of length just in the repetition of motifs. Which means if the motif is repeated 15 times, it will make a difference of 15 centimetres. So when we make a piece of cloth that is 3 or 3.5 metres long, we'll have 15 or 20 centimetres of difference depending on the repetitions. In fact, they're a lot less concentrated on their work. There's too much going on around them. The children, the hens, the rice harvest, the cooking, the kitchen garden. They lose the thread of weaving and therefore concentration. So for us, it's going to be a real challenge for us to make it work. I really like this fabric, I really like these women, and I'd like to be able to collaborate together, but on a much more professional basis.
Anou, do you want to try?
No, thanks. How's it going, Peng?
I'm practicing.
Let's have a look.
She's doing very well.
Don't compliment her. That's not the right thing to do. Not at all. Your hands are all blue.
Don't worry, it's fine. It's true they're all blue. When I give the rice to the children, they're scared. They don't want any.
Really? Are they scared?
And yet, if you wear indigo, it brings good health. It kills diseases.
Really? There's no bacteria?
No, it kills diseases and insects.
Okay, thanks very much. It was a pleasure. I met some very endearing people in this village. For example, the woman doing the indigo dye is totally absorbed by her art. She explained how she uses sunflowers to keep away evil spirits, to protect her jars of indigo, and make sure the dye produces nice colors. I was really very surprised to see that all this tradition of cotton growing, dyeing, and weaving is done by women.
On the eve of Anou's departure, the villagers hold a ceremony called Basi in his honor. The whole soul of Laos is encapsulated in this ceremony. It involves naming the 32 souls associated with each part of the body and which tend to diffuse. Dozens of cotton threads represent wishes, which are tied around the wrists of guests. Each forms a visible and invisible link with the other. Vientiane is the capital of Laos. Its local name is Vientiane, which means City of Sandalwood or City of the Moon. This tranquil image is today contradicted by the intensity of the traffic and the same kind of economic growth that has been seen in many cities across Southeast Asia. For 14 years, Anou has lived in the Sisatanak quarter, not far from the Mekong. He chose to set up his workshop in his house. For more than a decade, he has pursued his passion to create a unique line of silk fabrics, reinterpreting old patterns, some of which have been lost for more than 50 years.
I saw reproductions of the past, but no renewal. So I immediately had the idea of making these Laotian textiles more modern. And ultimately, I'm picking up the story that my grandmother began 55 years ago. She had to leave it all behind, so it was a way of paying tribute to her to begin a textile adventure again, one of creation.
In the 1950s, his grandmother used to supply the silk boutique Ver à Soie in Paris. Today, Anou finds in Thailand the exceptional quality of silk thread that meets his standards. textile is the marriage of the head, the thread, and the hand. It's the coming together on a loom of threads arranged on a vertical axis, the warp threads, and those on the horizontal axis, the weft, drawn through with a shuttle. Slowly, the weaver draws the motif on the warp threads using a knife like a pen. The motif is transferred line after line, bamboo after bamboo, on the heddle.
You told me 12 battens are missing, so we have to remove 8. When I apply the designs, we put them on small 20-centimeter looms first, and then we transfer it over to a 40-centimeter or 45-centimeter wide piece to check everything is okay. And when we put it on a loom that is 128 centimeters wide, we have to respect the span, the arm span of the weavers. None of them are more than 1.6 meters. We weave on a 128-centimeter loom, which is extremely wide because you have to allow for the passage of the shuttle and the movements of the body. It's like a ballet. On this motif, maipao, which represents a palm leaf, there are 110 battens to hold each level, so 110 levels. So it needs to be lifted 220 times to have a full motif. So we had to sacrifice some of the complexity. We had to remove 8 lines so the women could work comfortably. The compromise was to make a beautiful design, but without there being any difficulty for weaving, so the weaving could be close to perfect.
Traditionally in Laos, weaving is done on narrow looms for scarves that are worn in the temple and the bottom of skirts. But to meet demand from decorators, Anou weaves wide pieces.
Peng takes care of quality control, which ensures our excellence and means our products are practically faultless. She has a very hard life. I hired her as my cleaner to begin with.
I learned to weave with my mother when I was a little girl. I was 8 or 9. My father died when I was 16. I had to leave school and stay at home to weave sins, traditional Laotian skirts, and sell them at the market.
I could tell she wanted to evolve. Over time, she took over quality control. And now she's my director of production. In fact, she's in charge of everything.
In this company, we work together like a family. Everyone has to get on because we eat, work, and drink together. If we encounter a problem, we can talk about it. It's not like there's a boss and subordinates. It's more familial.
In Laotian culture, whether it's within the family or business, it's important to recreate a sort of family unit within the company.
In a sheltered spot near the workshop, Anou creates his own colors. Laotian recipes are passed on orally. So when he learnt dyeing, Anou carefully noted down all his experiments on little pieces of paper, thus mastering the alchemy of colors. To obtain beige, number 21, called dark beige, they mix boiled onion skins, diluted with ebony, which is macerated for 6 months with lime and ash. It's a disgusting putrefaction that stinks, with worms floating about in it. But it will produce a beige with gray nuances going from silvery to dark gray.
How's it going today, Win? It looks tricky.
Yes, it's a bit difficult.
It seems like the colour is bleeding.
Yes, a little.
Why didn't you add a little iron?
I already have.
The colour isn't true. It's too dull. I don't understand. What can we add?
Some onion?
It's a pleasure to see all the colours which have been made during the day and be able to see all the collections on display. There are certain colours that we don't use often, and when we do a special order, obviously we see them again. It's as if they're reborn. And then, in my head, I can imagine other combinations of colours. I like that sound. Sounds like snow. We use lots of plant dyes, and certain dyes can develop fungal growths or bacteria. To kill these bacteria and fungi, I have to put the silk skeins in the freezer for about 3 to 5 days before using the silk. There are some beliefs which are absurd, yet are at the same time understandable. The dyers cannot do their job on holy days, and there are 4 in the month. They believe in dreams, in superstition. I had a dyer who wouldn't work when he had nightmares. You can't ignore this kind of belief, you just have to accept it and juggle with these different factors. No one has ever been able to explain to me exactly why you can't die on holy days.
The people of Laos are animists. They live in a spiritual world. If a leaf quivers, it has a meaning. When rain falls at a given moment, they try to understand why. They believe in ghosts and beneficent spirits. At the entrance to the house, Anou has a shrine dedicated to the protective spirits, the Phi. For each ceremony, the shaman, who acts as messenger between the human and spirit world, gives offerings of rice, flowers, water, and incense. Among the offerings, the orange of the Indian carnations echoes the color of the monks' robes. In Laos, shamanism and Buddhism have always played a major role in daily life. Communism has never managed to undermine this faith that is deeply anchored in the Laotian mentality. Anou built his faith over the years that he spent in Laos. When he moved there, his mother insisted that he have a Buddha. Every fortnight, he offers it a tray of 9 fruits, selected according to the rules. As long as he looks after it, his Buddha will protect him from evil spirits. The fabrics made in Anou's workshop combine hand weaving and contemporary design. To achieve excellence requires an exceptional level of craftsmanship. That requires attention to detail and great patience.
It's also a team effort. So I create the motif, I sketch it on a piece of paper, I explain it, I pass it on to a person who transcribes it onto the loom with all the constraints of the warp and weft. Then we have to adjust it to obtain the real proportions and the design I've got in my head.
To make the most complex motifs, The weavers produce just 6 centimeters of cloth per day.
In Laos, you really have to learn to be patient. You have to learn to look at people. Because when I first arrived, it's true, I was quite impatient. I was raised according to the French or European Western model, and we have a certain impatience. We want everything to be immediate. By contrast, the Laotians really look at the here and now. We're weaving today, we're weaving tomorrow. That's the way it goes. There's no notion of time. We can't make them say 12:18. They'll say a little after 12 o'clock. There's also this notion that I've totally banished from my workshop. It's the centimetre and a bit. The approximation. Near enough will do. Well, obviously I'm exaggerating. I don't punish them. But they're not allowed to say to me 2 centimetres and a bit. They have to say to me, or Peng, it's 2.8 centimetres, 13.3 precisely. They have to. I don't understand why these two samples are different. Look here, the motifs are different. Why is this width different to that one? How many centimetres are there from here to here? It's wider.
The motif is bigger because we removed part of it.
Here it's 2 centimetres, and here it's 2.3 centimetres. So it's wider. It's not the same thing. You'll have to start over. We'll look at it again tomorrow. We'll use the same thread. It's pretty, no? What do you think? And this motif is nice too. I'm not criticizing you. I'd just like to understand. What always amazes me with weavers is that they have a very mathematical mindset, and they work on a binary basis. They learn to weave at the age of 10 or 12, so it's obviously become second nature for them. When I show them a sketch, they can tell me straight away if it's feasible. If I really want it, I can sit at the loom and do it, and then I understand. And sometimes I regret it. It can take days. They try to find a solution. It's easy to reproduce something, but creating something new isn't. I think that's when you see what a good weaver is made of. Those who really want to do something new, those who really have a vocation, and who take weaving to the level of an art. I try to follow the evolution. I know that those are the first, because we did that on a black warp. And then there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 versions, which took 6 weeks of design on that pattern. It's only really when you get into it and read the motif line by line that you understand why there are changes. It's a question of modifying until you find a sort of balance that only I can understand. There's a sort of form that I wanted, a certain abstraction on this motif, whereas there's a very strong image of a naga. But drowning it in the pattern so that you just get a suggestion of it. And then in the weaving you can see it, and then you can't. And I took it up to the nearest stitch, and then I stopped at the 9th version. That one we kept. There was a second one. We made this line thicker compared to this one. We kept the little dots, the serpent, which is still here. There's a part we refined, there's this bit, there, and this we made solid, and then we added a line in the middle to make the image denser.
Anou is putting the final touches to his latest collection, imagining names which convey the designs. Peng helps him find the right name which evokes Laos.
We're going to give a name to these two motifs. The first will be jasmine flower, and the second motif will be yucca flower. What do you think?
You think?
We could call this motif Sisatanak, like our neighborhood.
4 nagas.
4 serpents. We should note these names to send some to the UK, to France, to America. All the agents should have large and small samples in 4 colors.
The quality is incredible. You can't find anything like it. It's something extraordinary. Your colors are amazing. And that's what everyone, whenever I show the samples to anyone, they just go, oh my God, I love this. There's no one who said that they don't like it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, everyone loves it.
Good.
Everyone, yeah.
I'm happy.
Which is, yeah, me too. Me too. It's just, yeah, it's going from one step to another step and moving up there.
Mm-hmm. But I'm working on a new collection right now, so you see new things.
Designs?
Excuse me? Yeah, new designs, and you're going to see more colors. I would try to get them to you before the 18th of December, which is in 10 days.
Yeah.
There's a dialogue which develops between the interior architect, the project manager, the client and myself to be able to create a panel for a window, for a sofa or a cushion that will be part of the decoration of a house. When you think that a panel like that, a sample that you send like that, which will end up in a designer studio folded up at the bottom of a drawer, that's 3 days weaving. And that's what can be a bit painful at times. When I go and visit the decorators and I say to them, "Where's the fabric I sent you last week?" And they answer, "I don't know, we'll have to find it." And they fetch out a big cardboard box and fish it out from the bottom, all screwed up as if it was a piece of rag. That really hurts. But in the end, it's fascinating to know that you can achieve an incredible result that could end up in a magazine or in the home of clients like Michael Bloomberg or Jennifer Aniston, people like that. It's really fabulous to know that a little workshop in Laos with just 10 people can produce interior decor for Hollywood stars. It's really great.
In the center of Vientiane stands the Misai temple, which belongs to Anou's family. The remains of his ancestors lie there. When Anou arrived in Laos, people were always asking him who were his parents. For the man in the street, although he was born in Laos, he remained a foreigner. After all these years, Anou is gradually piecing together the puzzle. The family, textiles, Laos.
I think I'm going to stay in Laos for a very long time. I feel as if there's an objective here. It's true that when I used to work in France, life was good. I had a good job, a nice lifestyle, but here I feel more complete. There's a sort of spirituality. I've also got the impression of finding the roots which were missing when I was little. There were lots of things unsaid with my parents due to their situation. So that leads to a feeling of getting back to one's origins. I feel more complete here. I also have the impression that I'm finishing a job that my grandparents had started, because my grandfather was extremely attached to Laos. He was attached to France too. My grandmother admired France, but her life was also here. The fact that they left in 1975, they were totally uprooted from Laos, like me. That leaves an absence, an emptiness. And I think you have to fill that emptiness at some point or another. I think my grandmother is proud. I think she's very touched. In fact, I know she's very touched. I visit her once or twice a year, depending on my availability. And on each occasion, I spend some memorable moments with her. She's pleased to know that I took up a craft that she had to abandon, and that she can relive the past through my fabrics. One thing that I find really amusing is how she takes out her magnifying glass. She's 91 years old, but she rummages in her bag and takes out her magnifying glass. And she has a good look and tells me there are no stray threads and nothing wrong. That's just great. Being in Laos allows me to be more Laotian. Laos has brought me a lot. Patience, slowness, and above all, a calmness. I think there's a real tenderness in people's eyes, a smile that is truly natural. And it's that slowness which allows you to do some amazing textile work. I couldn't have found that anywhere else.